You have to be the most stupidest person I've met as a driver of a motor vehicle, with the police vehicles all the way since Church Street to here.
Sorry.
I've just caught a police pursuit with you. We're in pursuit with you because you would not stop. Produce your driver's license, driver.
Sorry, I wasn't sure.
You've lost your license.
I'm sorry, I didn't actually know.
You looked in the rear vision mirror no less than 4 times.
I wasn't sure.
What is this vehicle behind you?
It's the police, but I wasn't sure. I'm really actually not sure.
Your mother didn't. Is this your mother?
My mother just...
She didn't have a seatbelt on in the car when we went past you on Woodville Road. Your P plates aren't displayed in accordance with the regulations. You failed to stop when directed to by police. You can argue as pass me her ID too. Your P plate at the rear is not displayed properly. She would have ID of some description.
She came from overseas.
Oh, it doesn't matter. She would have some ID on her of some description. Produce it.
Can I get her?
Have you got ID?
No, she just migrated from overseas. We've applied for her ID card, hasn't arrived yet.
Well, she'd have something.
Can I get her pass?
Yeah, we're taking her back to jail anyway.
Can I get her pass at least someone?
No, I want someone to get her ID. If she's got a wallet, she'll have ID on her. Out of the car. Come on, out. Where's your ID? Where's your wallet? Where's your wallet? Bag. Where's your bag? Where's your bag? Is that her handbag?
That's my bag.
Alright, where's her wallet? Where's her wallet? I don't care where your home is. At this stage, you're under arrest for driving in a negligent manner. Do you understand that? Hop out of the car. Whack the cuffs on her. ID. This, ID.
Can I? English now.
Over here. Imshi. Don't argue with me, love, or you'll be going back in the paddy wagon as accessory to bloody murder. This is ridiculous. Go away. Go home. You go home. You're their friends? Go inside. Yeah, right. I got her license, but not mum's. First name? Date of birth? I don't care. You go back to jail. I don't care.
25th of March.
Yep.
1975.
How old are you?
Yeah.
You're telling fibs.
She's
Where does she live? Where does she live?
She lives.
She's not 48 if she's born in 1975. She's 44. What's the year of birth?
75.
And she's 48. Do your maths. That's 44. I'm 41, born in 78. Take 3 years off. 75. That's 44. Someone's telling me lies. Your mum has 30 seconds to tell me her date of birth, or on the way to Rose Hill police station.
She doesn't know her.
Well, you can. Well, she would. ID.
Can I just check?
Contact someone to get her passport down here. She'd have an Afghan passport. You ring someone, tell them to get your passport down here now, or you go back to the police station.
Police station, wait, I found it.
See? ID.
She's on temporary visa.
Oh, so she's committed offences whilst on a temporary visa.
Yep.
Aid and abet.
No, this is not. I've got it.
Well,
at
get some.
home.
Ring her. Ring someone at home, because a girl was come down here, a relative.
That's not.
Bring no, she stays here. Mum stays here. Hey, here. Ring someone to go and get her passport and bring it here now. Don't you get aggro. You'll be in the back of a divvy going back to the jail. Don't take advantage of our system. This is ridiculous.
I am moving it.
Get on your bike.
But you're not going to talk down to me.
I'm talking directly to your face. Move it.
You're not going to talk down to me.
I've seen Constable Murphy's.
I'm complying with you. I'm complying with you. Where do you want me to move it to?
Friends call him Jughead. To criminals, he is Raptor 13, a man on a mission at Mick Howie's funeral yesterday, pulling over the murdered Comanchero's mates on their way to the cemetery and drawing his taser as they clashed.
Brother, there's 30 of us, there's 2 of you.
He did not take a backward step.
Show some respect, officer, mate.
As Howie's hearse drove by, the officer issued infringements for breaching consorting laws which forbid criminal gangs from congregating.
I'm not police. Brother, there's 30 of us, there's 2 of you. Yeah, guys. Let's fucking be drunk. Yeah, just fucking busy. You're gonna shoot us? Let's go, man. Wait. Show some respect, officer, mate. You're gonna shoot us? We're gonna shoot us. We're going to a funeral. We're going to a funeral. Stand against the fence. Come on, respect for yourself. Stand against the fence. I don't care. It's only search. Stand against the fence. You relax. You relax, mate. All right, you relax. You're being searched. Firearms. He's under arrest.
So what's your name then?
Yeah, my name's...
Yeah,
What's
and
yours?
His name? What's his name?
What's your name?
I'm seeing Constable Murphy, strike force Raptor. What's his name?
Excuse
Step
me?
back out of my face.
Don't you?
Don't come close to me.
Do not... I did not touch you.
Listen, you've been warned once before.
No, he's...
Go. Stay
I'm
there.
his mother. He's underage.
Stay there.
No, excuse me. What's your name again? Can you just
Off
repeat
the
it for the
road.
camera?
You're off the road.
You're all on the road.
You're allowed to, you're not. You're a pedestrian. Off the road.
So is he.
Yeah, he's been dealt with by accomplice.
I don't give a You're my son.
What's your son's
Can you
name?
just go and
My
stand up
son's
the road,
name's...
please? Thank you.
Well, I need to be there while he's being
You can stay
questioned.
there. He's got a ticket. He's right to go now.
All right, let's go.
Officially, police are backing his judgments.
What the? Yeah, I'll pay for it. Yeah, put it. I'm going to put my husband too.
Steve, you're cracking him out, bro.
You got it?
I've got it on record. I'm literally cracking him out. Good luck.
Good on you, man. Thank you very much. Relax, there's nothing going to
It's
happen.
been posted to your house already, mate.
Yeah,
You've driven-
no problem.
You've been stopped only the other week for driving
Yeah.
with your helmet
Not
and
a
your
problem.
protrusions.
Yeah.
Mate, you've obviously done something dodgy with this. I'm going to have a look into this and your
Not a
mechanics and
problem,
get
you
fair
can.
trading.
What
go
was
through.
your name? Officer, I just need to ask for your
Raptor
name.
13.
What was your personal name?
Raptor 13.
Is that Raptor 13? No, your name, your actual name.
Raptor 13.
No, you said your name was Steve or something.
Raptor 13.
No, I need
Safe
to know your
crime
name.
convenience,
You,
strike force
by
Raptor.
law, I want to know who
This
you're
is
talking
a
about.
defect notice.
Ra-
You can't ride this or drive it from here.
That's
It must
fine,
be
I've got a
towed.
towing. I just want to know
For
who I'm
dangerous
dealing with because you
protrusions.
pushed me
Told it
before
before.
without letting who.
There you go.
Raptor 13, you're not telling me your name. I got you on camera. I'll end up
I don't
finding who
care.
you are, and I got my lawyers to do whatever they need to do for you, mate.
Well, you can tell them about the
Not a
offensive,
problem, mate. You
charge
jump
as
back
well.
into your air conditioning car and continue doing your job. Thank you very much.
No, I'm quite happy to stand here as long
Stand as long as you want, mate. Under the sun. Good on you. I'm in the shade.
By the way, you're also getting another one for the
Not a problem, man. I don't care. It's
Suspension.
going, no problem. You do anything you want to it. Whatever you want. Yeah, don't touch my bike. It's fine. Do whatever you want. I'm going to get it towed. It's not going to bother me at all. I'm getting it towed. You're just going to go back into your car. You're getting sunburnt. Just get out of here whenever you're ready. Or if you want to stay, stay.
Also, yeah,
It's all
just
good.
state your name and current residential address for me as well. It's accordance to provisions of the road.
Can I have my
transport
license back first
Act.
before you
what's
do
your-
that?
What's your name and your current residential address? I've got to check it with your license.
You already got it in the license.
Bail conditions still say somewhere else, don't they?
No, they don't, mate. You obviously got things wrong. You forgot. He had to call backup. He got scared. He's the one that pushed me. Here you go. Thanks, mate. Oh,
Sorry about that.
that's no problem, man. You're the one getting sunburnt. It looks like you're fucking gonna turn like a redhead or
That's the
something.
second time you swore.
I didn't swear at you. Is it against the law to swear?
It is.
No, it's
We're
not.
in a playground. We won
That's
about
fine.
5, 6
They're like
kids.
about 100 metres away, man. They haven't got
Mate, that's
supervision
about 15
ears.
feet, mate.
Yeah,
15, 20 feet.
yeah, they haven't got
You're going to
supervision
court for
ears.
offensive language as well, mate.
No worries, man. Good on ya. Are you gonna go now?
I'll see you in a few weeks.
Yep, I'll see you in a few weeks. I gotta go get some sunscreen. My head's burning. It's gone red. See you, mate. You're a funny cut. That's all you done, eh? That's it. Call back up. Done nothing.
Chicken. Wait for a sec. Jump over there. Can you show him you can record it with your heart's content when I'm finished with you, mate?
I'm not recording you. I just want to say what you're defecting me for.
That's a defect label, mate. Yellow label can't be removed by anyone else other than an authorised officer.
Why are you going so hard?
Not.
You are. There's nothing wrong with the truck. Murphy, there's nothing wrong with the truck. The truck's empty. You're just hustling me. That's what you are.
Yeah, whatever.
You are.
Use the indicators and make
But
sure
I
it
did.
says-
You're hustling me. Weddings. You're hustling me. I'm just trying to see why you're chasing me. But you've gone down.
Is it a defect notice?
Okay.
How about a bit quiet?
No,
Zip,
no,
quiet.
but why should I
It's a
put?
defect notice.
I'm making a living,
You got
but
21 days of making sure it's compliant.
But I'm
with
making a living, Murphy.
Just shut up and let me explain this to you, will you? Okay. The more you talk, the longer you sit here, the less time you got to get it home. Okay. I've given you an hour. You've got an hour to get this vehicle off the road.
We're done.
And after that hour, the vehicle can't be driven. It has to get cleared at the heavy vehicle inspection station at Wetherill Park or one similar to that, being run by the RMS, as indicated down here, Roads and Maritime Services Heavy Vehicle Inspection Station, for a full inspection. Your front passenger seat doesn't comply with the Australian design rules. You don't get it cleared in the next 21 days.
That's fine.
It's
I don't mind.
cancelled. Your tickets
That's
in the
fine.
mail.
Thank you.
And the one for the having the old.
But they don't give you the original labels.
Oh, don't they?
No. So, yeah, but that's it. They don't. I've already called the RMS. They don't give you no more.
Heavy vehicle ones,
Yeah,
they
they
do.
don't. I've called them. They don't give it no
Last
more.
week they were, mate.
Murphy, they don't give it no more.
Displaying an expired one on the back anyway.
But I wasn't sure. I actually called up. I put Rego on the truck.
It's
Look,
expired.
but look, has it got Rego?
It's expired.
Has that got Rego?
It's an expired label.
Okay, but has the trailer got Rego? I'm not sure. They don't give you a new one. I wasn't aware of that.
Look at this. Expired label display, mate. Tickets in the mail.
But is the truck registered?
I'm not giving you a ticket for driving under the trailer. I'm giving you one for displaying an expired
But
label.
I
Is it
forgot
sinking
about
in?
that.
Is it going in? Because it's an expired
That's
label.
fine. It is doing it. I'll see
Yeah,
a call.
look.
I'll see a call.
Well, I just think why you can't. You got a certificate to say you can do that?
No, I don't.
Engineer certificate? No. Come here, car, thanks, mate. Put the bonnet. You record your ass content, mate. You might as well just make a note. 'Cause I'm recording you, so.
I know, but I want to hold a copy of it.
Oh, yeah. Exhaust, all the stuff on it, got Wall Street legal, and it makes a lot of noise. I'm not the expert in regards to that, mate. They are, so you get the
Can I get your name and bachelor?
one of those on a clinic country Murph, it's not for personal.
Constable Murphy, right? Yeah. Hello? Oh, no.
Your plate plates aren't fitted properly. When you go get a bracket, you put it next to it. You don't have it hidden like that, so you can't put a street one. So if you think that it won't take it, it won't back down. You might want to clean up the Constable on your case. Thank you for the support. Come on, after you for one, mate. Mate, your one. Another place not suited properly. 3 visible positions. Another place is visible for 45 degrees on each angle. Left, right, top, bottom. And it's also going to be, hang on, it's also going to be suited parallel with your axle of professional security. That can't be seen, mate, so you want to get a form to that as long as you do a performance support. Top your bottom from the your tyres are also suited. You hit me. Yeah, you hit me. Yeah. And you got all that over top of the street. Yeah. So, unfortunately, you're not leaving your overspray. You don't get those top on it.
Red label. Wow.
I got that. No. 200 SX can be mounted in the centre, mate.
I got that mechanic stuff.
Mechanic start wrong.
How's that my fault? Yeah, but how much?
Yeah, but you're the driver, you're responsible for
the RMS stuff is mechanic to get updated. So I got something on the side.
Yeah, well, he's did it wrong.
Who's the RMS certified mechanic?
Yeah, passenger.
What's the fucking control car?
No, sorry, I'm
No.
How do you carry in the boot of your car?
It's supposed to go in the boot.
Well, you don't carry this beside your
Okay.
Are you a mechanic?
No, just in case, like.
Now, are we referring to you by your name, or are we sticking with Raptor 13?
Oh, call me Andrew.
Oh,
I
okay.
saw the birth certificate, and Mum called me, and no doubt if my mum hears this, she'll go, Andrew.
Well, I didn't know whether or not, I didn't ask you that before, whether or not I'm
That's
allowed
right.
to actually
No,
publish your
yeah.
full name. Yeah, that's fine. We'll just stick with Andrew. No worries.
Yep.
Well, welcome. It's very secret squirrel, a lot of this stuff. I wasn't allowed to get, and the listeners will find out why, but there's a lot of secrecy around getting you on, Andrew, and addresses and all this sort of stuff. And
Oh, yeah.
the light, I was like, please make sure the lighting doesn't make sure that you look like you're in witness protection. But
Yeah.
it did feel like it to start off with in regards to us communicating. But you were in the police force, the New South Wales Police Force, for many years.
Yeah, I joined in February 97 as a fresh-faced 19-year-old.
And you ended
left
up
in 2021.
and you ended up dealing with bikies task force and with active hits on you and all sorts of stuff. So it's been a colourful career, shall we say?
Yeah. It's a long and pretty, you could say an exciting, different, pretty memorable career.
Would you say, considering the press that you've had, you're one of the most controversial or misunderstood police officers from the New South Wales Police
If you
Force?
go into Wikipedia, I'm on their page for New South Wales Police.
Get out!
Yeah, so they have controversies, I'm the most controversial living one. The other one's Roger Rogerson, and there's others below it, but yeah, they
Huh. Well, we don't want to be lumped in with Roy.
the old Roger, me and
No.
him, he's a tip, he's a crook. But
He's convicted everybody, like that's legit.
yeah, but he's gone there anyway. So
Yeah.
but I was probably the first and probably the police officer that was had their tail end of their career, well, my career heavily media publicised, shared across different social media platforms. Yeah.
Colourful, that's for sure. If people don't know, Raptor 13 was your call sign.
Yeah,
When-
so I had a name tag and it was, I used to run numbers and the number I had was Raptor 13, so Raptor 13, yeah.
So very identifiable in that regard.
Yeah.
What made you, considering it was such a colourful career, what made you want to get into policing in the first place?
I had always been army growing up.
Really?
I was 18. I'd left school, finished year 12. It was 95, I think it was. And I was going through the process of joining the army to go through RMC, Royal Military College. And I didn't get past a certain stage. I got up to the aptitude testing or something. I said, look, you're a bit young. And yeah, I was 17. Looking back at it, yeah, I was young. do 12 months of reserves, come back and see us, and we'll see how you go. In the meantime, I applied for jobs with customs, and Mum said to me one day, "Hey, look, the New South Wales Police are recruiting," and this is back in the days of an advertising. I think it was the Telegraph back then, or the Mirror. And I went, "Oh, okay." So I applied. There was never really a drive to be a police officer. I'd had interactions like good stuff with the police, coming up through high school. Family member was in the police, uncle by marriage, but not really any influence to be a cop. And it was just that conversation with Mum that started the ball rolling, and yeah, I joined the cops.
Because it was a fairly rough and tumble, when you sent through your bio, it was a fairly rough and tumble childhood that you had. I mean, you were getting into fights.
Look, as a kid, I was a bit, you could say in high school I was a nerd. I was more academic.
Really?
Yeah, I was a bit of a nerd. Yeah.
Ah.
I didn't do the best I could have done at high school, as Mum and Dad would say, but I could have done better. But I did all right. Like, I wasn't an idiot. But my whole part of my teenage years was always aimed at going into the military. That's where I had my heart set. Because our uncle was an officer in the army, and I was fairly close to that side. And yeah, I followed his career, and I thought, yeah, this is pretty cool. It was always army, but ended up being a cop. But it wasn't be rough and tumble. Like, Mum and Dad was an awesome growing up, and we had never wanted training, and I was a bit of a goody two-shoes, some people would say. But yeah,
you were getting in fights with like full on.
Oh yeah, I got jumped by those two blokes. That was
those two blokes. You'll need to explain who they were.
So Ahmed Fardo and Say Fardo, a lot of the police from the 90s and early 2000s from Southwest Sydney know who exactly they are. Well, I went to school with them. They became members of certain organised crime gangs. And they jumped us after school. One day I was walking down the back to a Beyond Primary, and the two jumped me, and I ended up in a bit of a fight with them. And one's older and one's in my year. Then my brother, Trevor, he come running down, and it was on. He saved the day, picked up a push bike, cracked one across the head. I think he kicked the other one between the legs, and right, we're out of here, mate. And we ran off up the street and got out of there. So I crossed paths with both of them numerous times through my career. So any of the guys in Southwest City know exactly who I'm talking about.
Why did they decide to jump you? Do you know?
Can't actually remember. I must have said something to them at school, or they did something, or Tim's Ahmed was in my year, and I must have said something to him or done something. He didn't like it, and he thought he was the big tough guy at school, so he decided to have a go.
Okay. So you ended up joining the police force.
Yep.
How old were you?
I was 19. The day I walked into the academy was the 16th of February, so I was just turned 19.
Baby.
Yeah. But I was tall, and the majority of our class were in our teens, early 20s. We weren't old. There was older people, older demographic, tradies, older people, ex-military, but it was definitely a large proportion of us all either straight out of high school or at the oldest in our early 20s. It was we grew up a lot in that 6 months, like.
Why do you say that, in terms of the training or in terms of what you saw?
No, well, to cutting it out, umbilical cords from home. Most of us, like, I hadn't been away from home for anything longer than a week or two. I've done
school camps and
annual cadet. I was in the cadets, Army cadets as a kid. So I'd go away for 7 to 10 days at Singleton and weekends with the Army, the cadets at the time. And this was sort of a pack your bags up, you're out at the door for 6 months. And I'm like, day one, I knew no one. It's hard. It was hard. But within 2 to 3 days, I knew 20, 25 people in my subclass 269 Alpha, of which I'm still pretty close with several of them. So, yeah, it's the training was not what I expected. I expected it to be harder, but it's a lot harder than what it is now. I believe, like, there was still a level of bastardization, but not to the degree that I was expecting.
What do you mean by that?
You still got yelled at, you still got told off.
But is that bastardization, or is that just discipline and like?
I believe it's just discipline and yelling at you.
Yeah.
And if you did something wrong and they came up to you and they yelled at you, especially in the parade ground. But I suppose if you look at it today, what happens with the softly, and they don't yell at you as much. They would go, "Oh, a bit scary. Like we did log runs. There was a bit more of that preparing you for what you might be facing. Like I remember doing a scenario in training where you're on the ground by yourself and there's 6 of your classmates absolutely cowling you up, and you've got to be able to get out of there and things like that. And there was also, you hearing the stories from the guys that they're down there teaching, because most of them were experienced cops of at least 15 plus years. So you're hearing all their stories from back in the 80s and 90s. And it's sort of, yeah, I think it was a bit of an eye-opener.
So you matured quite rapidly, being away from your mum.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. You still came home. I still came home predominantly every weekend, so it's only Goulburn City.
So you can't say you were away for 6 months then. Lordy,
it's not like I shipped out to the Army or the Navy. It was,
Jeez Louise. Yeah. I went to boarding school and I was away for longer than that.
Yeah, so you're still going home, you still got a phone, you still can ring people, and not like today with mobile phones, but you couldn't sit there texting everyone and doing selfies and that. It was the old school phones.
So really the statement of cutting the umbilical cord, not really. You were still going home.
Yeah, it did, because you were left to your own devices. You didn't have to be home at street lights are out, or mum didn't know that you'll get up to on Monday to Friday, and Wednesday nights and Thursday nights at Tully Park, Wednesday nights at the Gordon, and Tuesday nights I think we went to either the High Bow or one of the other places for food, and you went out and you had a good time. You did between 8 o'clock and 4:35 you were doing all your training, and then most nights you were left to your own devices to either study, and if you studied, or you went out and had a good time. And yeah, and we added with Mike's subclass, because you stated that there was 220, 225 of us in the class as a whole, but then you're broken into smaller subclasses, and we stayed together for the 6 months. So we got to know each other pretty well. Like I said, I'm still good friends with several of them.
When you left the academy, where were you stationed?
So I left there on the Friday, and I walked into Fairfield police station that Friday night. So what was then now called Fairfield Local Area Command, Southwest Sydney. Fairfield was on the last class of one of the commands that you weren't allowed to put into or go to. Police officer by the name of David Carty was murdered there by a street gang known as the Assyrian Kings back in April of that year. So I was the first class in 6 months to actually come out of the academy straight into Fairfield. Fairfield was Wild West back in those days. It was a bit crazy. So
I'm not a Sydney person, and a lot of the listeners aren't. So I was going to say, what was Fairfield like?
Fairfield's there was in excess of 150 different languages spoken in the command, so it's pretty culturally diverse.
Yeah,
top heavy with what's called the Assyrians. So the Assyrians are a racial group from Iraq, Iran, Syria that are Christian based, and that area of Fairfield was the larger proportion of them outside of Iraq. We had Asians, Vietnamese, Chinese, Cabramatta's just down the road, Canley Vale. At the time, we were at the tail end of the heroin pandemic in southwest Sydney. So we had a lot of the drug crime was overflowing into Fairfield, and it was a bit, looking at how policing's done now to then, it was definitely archaic, but we got the job done.
Why, when you say it was archaic, what do you mean by that?
Well, you might have a portable radio between two in your car crew, if you're lucky. These days, everyone has a portable radio. Had black spots, it wasn't the best. We drove around in old 4-cylinder Rodeos that if you were going up a hill with lights and sirens on, the car next to you probably overtake you. We were armed with 6-shooter revolvers and a set of handcuffs, whereas today they've got the Glock self-loading pistol, 2 spare magazines, OC, like capsicum spray, taser, extendable batons, body armor. We didn't have that in those days. We had the aluminium baton in the car, the big long one, like a mini sword in the car. Body armor was the big heavy vest on the back seat that you only got out when it was, rarely got them out unless there was shots fired or you were going to something where there was shots being fired or something really bad. There was a bit of time to prepare. Otherwise, you just wore your bulletproof shirt, blue Marley police shirt. And things were very different. Security levels were different. Systems were changing over from typewriters to computers. The computer system was a lot slower. It wasn't
Showing your age
technologically
now,
advanced.
Andrew.
Yeah, I know. We learned how to do things on typewriters at the police academy. We were on a changeover. So, yeah.
Do you find that throughout your career, considering how in terms of the equipment, you were fairly vulnerable from what it sounds like? Do you think that there was although you're in a dangerous area working, that there was a different level of respect compared to later on in your career?
The bonds between the police, the culture, was very strong. Like at Fairfield in those days, they've been through. I wasn't there when Dave Carty was killed. I was actually at Bass Hill doing my student in that phase where that happened. And there was a bond amongst the cops there at Fairfield that even today, like AMS got a message of one of the guys I used to work with yesterday, Fairfield boys of old. And I was only a young cop those days, and the guys that were older than me, there was definitely a strong bond with them. And you sort of, you went through hardships and tough times, and true shit, like you could say, and built that bond. And I'm still mates with a fair few guys I used to work with at Fairfield. And it was good. And
I was more asking in terms of the community rather than within the
well, the
police
community.
force. I mean, if you're rocking around with your shirt as the only armour that you've got on.
If you came to work, you came to work in civilian in gear because we were parking away from the station on the walk. So people knew you were because you were Aussies. Generally, we were all Aussies, white Australians and stuff. They knew you were, but we wouldn't wear uniforms. So only wearing uniform at work. And when we left work, we'd wear plain clothes. But the community, it's working that environment with the Assyrians there and all those other communities, they kept to themselves. They generally don't talk. They don't want to report things to the police, especially with the Asians. They keep it in-house. And a lot of the younger Syrian males in the gangs, they hated us. I absolutely hated the cops. Like, you'd be set up, you'd go and might be searching one or two, and the next minute you got 15 or 20. Yeah, if you pull the car over, you'd get their mobile phones off them as quick as you could because one would get on the phone. The next minute you might have one car stopped, and then you'd have 15 cars there. They'd just get out and, you'd be surrounded. And that was quite common. So it was a hostile community. It was a hostile place to work.
Just want to touch on the fact that you're talking about the politically correct environment these days. I just want to touch on the reasons of why you're mentioning people's ethnicities, because a lot of them were running in the gangs in those areas and they were based on ethnicity.
Yeah, they were. So you had the Assyrians. To be a member of the Assyrian kings, you had to be Assyrian. A lot of them had military experience from the 1980s when Iraq and Iran were in a war. A lot of the hierarchy in the gang that were involved in the murder of a police officer came from the Iraqi army. They'd done some pretty horrendous things over there, and now they're living in Australia. They've in an organisation, a group that's based upon ethnicity, and that was the Assyrian kings.
So before people start riding in, that's why.
Okay, again.
So before people start riding in, that's why.
Yeah, and then you had then you're down the road in Cabramatta, you had the 5T. So it was the Vietnamese-based gangs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the drug syndicates down there, I think there was one white guy, one Caucasian that was a member of the 5T. The rest were Vietnamese. They were all based upon ethnicity. And the Fairfield local government area, where Fairfield and Cabramatta are both two commands, it's in a melting pot. You've got nearly every single ethnicity there. It's Europeans, Asians, Middle Easterns, Caucasians, it's everything in one area.
When you started policing, you were in general policing?
Yeah, so when you come out of the academy, you're straight into general duties. Back then, you did a minimum of 3 years in general duties. Before you could start applying for specialist roles or different roles. A lot of guys come out of the academy, I want to be highway, I want to be detectives, but you've got to do your time. And you had to wait till there was vacancies. Back then, the police was an organisation that was working at 95% strength, if not more. So your specialist units were generally full, and you'd have to wait for a vacancy or to be offered a spot. You didn't apply. Sometimes you would, hey, just notice what you're doing. Do you want to come and work in highway, or do you want to come apply for the detectives? You are generally asked. There was never a waiting list.
How long were you in general policing for at Fairfield?
Well, I was in GDs for 3 years to the day.
Is that GD? Is that general policing, is it?
Yeah, general duties. It's general policing, general duties. So the 16th of August, 2000, I had a pretty bad car accident. That was my last day in general duties. So I graduated from the academy on the 16th of August. It was 15th or 16th of August, 97. And 3 years to the day, I had a car accident, which was pretty bad and sidelined me for a fair while.
So let's not gloss over that because it was a very serious accident. How did it happen?
We were working, well, myself and my fighter Jason, we were working 3 10-hour shifts. 3 12-hour shifts from 10 to 10. So I was a swing car shift for general duties. And it was towards the end of the shift, and we're like, let's go for one last drive and see what we can get. We might get that big pursuit. It would always be like, you know, we want that big car chase and all that cool stuff. And we coming back on the Horsley Drive at Smithfield towards the Cumberland Highway intersection, and we had a car go through. It was driving a bit erratic, maybe a drink driver. So we we're going to try and light him up on the other side of the intersection and see what happens. And all of a sudden, he, I think we lit him up and he went through the intersection and we went after him. He went through on the red. We slowed down, came to stop, did the usual, lights are on, checking left and checking right to go in after him. We got 3/4 of the way through the intersection, and on the right, there was about 6 or 7 cars stopped. The guy on the left, doing about 90 k's an hour, hit my left side door, and the first time I saw him as well, I read on my left side, just near the door, CCOM security. And kind of realised this isn't good. And then I was we went into a backward spin, and I was looking back at the direction we came, and there was an almighty bang, and the car filled full of smoke, and I was in a lot of hurt. When I say smoke, it was all from the airbags going off. I thought the car was on fire, but I tried to lift myself out of the car and give myself a quick check over, and that's when I realised my left arm was no good. I couldn't walk, I couldn't move out of the car, and when I felt to my left leg, I could actually feel it was warm and a warm liquid, so obviously I had a pretty good cut. I didn't realise I'd put nearly 4 fingers into my thigh.
How many?
4.
Oh.
I had a big chunk of meat missing from my left eye from the bonnet of the other car. It actually came through the door and scooped out part of my leg, and then it compressed me and was pushed out by the B pillar. So when I was compressed, that's when my pelvis popped, and I broke my pelvis in 3 spots. My sacrum.
Oh, that expression, my pelvis popped.
Yeah, pretty much. It was broken in 3 spots. So I was unstable, and they had the 3 ribs, collarbone snapped from the seatbelt. I could feel that. My head was in one piece, which was probably the best thing. Didn't get hit. So
you're bleeding internally from the pelvis injury.
I did have a lot of internal injuries.
Yeah.
There was injuries to my stomach, bladder, bowels, and that sort of stuff. They didn't realise the extent of the injuries until probably about 3 days after when I was taken to hospital. One of the guys involved in it, he actually said that they were trying to find a heart rate at one stage. They said it was either that faint, they couldn't find it, and that. But I don't remember. I was in and out the whole time. I do remember get taken to the hospital. I remember coming in the back door of the hospital. That's a bit of a funny story in itself. I'd only been there probably an hour and a half earlier having an argument with the trauma surgeon about an offender I brought in that had stab wounds, and an hour and a half later, she's the one leading the team trying to save me. It was a bit bittersweet for me, but I saw mum and dad were there when I came in through the back door, and I was in air splints from the waist down, about mid-chest down, keeping the pelvis stable. And then the dad, make sure you get in touch with the association and get my free TV. And then the next thing I hear from is absolutely all these screaming and wailing coming from the emergency room with the trauma call, doing stuff on me because I was in a pretty bad way, a bit banged up.
What was about the free TV?
Oh, so if you remember the police association, when you go to hospital, you get a free TV.
Oh, okay.
So,
no, I don't remember that. I've never been in the police force.
Sorry. So for the New South Wales cops listening, you get a free TV courtesy of the police association. Right.
So you got a free TV for all your injuries?
Yeah, I knew I was going to be in there for a couple of days, I thought, because we were supposed to go on a fishing trip on the Friday. I thought, I'll be right. And then the paramedics like, mate, you're not going to be right for a long time. I'm like, oh, yeah, whenever. That was in the car, and then I realised what was actually wrong with me. I was like, this isn't good. Why?
So you get taken in after your free TV. Then the trauma surgeon's the one that you were having a barney with, before. I hope she won that argument.
She's actually running the show in the trauma call. The trauma call and the research bays in Liverpool Hospital. So you come in the back door, the ambos come in, and there's a whole heap of bays in front of you. That's where they take all the traumas. and there's a trauma call. So basically, it's not good. Everyone comes in and starts doing all their assessments and working on you. And
Do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I do. I remember the table was hard. I remember the bits and pieces of the pain being moved and screaming. I remember the lights. I remember bits and pieces of probing, and I remember a heap of people around me. It was a very weird experience. Not
Did
one
it
I'd ever
dawn
want
on
to
you
repeat.
then? Did it dawn on you then? Oh, this is really serious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't think I knew it wasn't good. It took 45 minutes to get me out of the car, cut me up. I had to be actually extricated through the back of the car. With the ambulance rescue, cut me up. So yeah, that wasn't good, and I knew that the ambos are in the car, Rick Sanderberry and Otto. They were up me for all kinds of great drugs, and even they said it wasn't good. So yeah, and being a police officer and going to so many accidents in your career, and being the person in the accident, you know when things are good or when things are bad. None of things were good.
Do you think, though, that in that situation that it's better to be naive and not understand?
Yes and no, because I knew what was going on to an extent. I knew what was going to happen. Not injury-wise, like I knew when the rescue blokes turned up and were putting the angle grind on the door, I knew that I was going to be all right. I knew that the guys looking after me next level. I knew them all by name. I worked with them in one way or another. The cops were in the car with me. The ambo is actually working on me. I knew. Yeah, so it was being a person that knows the capabilities and what they're doing. You go, I'm going to be all right. Like if you're a person that didn't know what was going on, the panic and all that sort of stuff. Like I knew if it got to a point where that car started getting on fire, they're going to pull me out. They're going to get me out no matter what. Whereas a person who hasn't worked in that environment will go like could panic more, and they don't know what's going on and what the capabilities are. And whereas I did, doesn't matter. I wasn't scared shitless.
Yeah, but I also think that the fact that you knew that your injuries were really bad, which is surprising because you also said that you thought you were going to be out for it in a few days.
Yeah,
but
I just had a broken arm.
Oh, okay.
And a broken arm and that because the internal stuff, I didn't realise as bad as it was. Like I knew that I couldn't move properly. I didn't know how bad the brakes were, and it went into my back and all the internal stuff and the ribs. I didn't know that stuff at that stage. All I knew was that I can't get out of this car. I can't move. I've got a big gash down my leg because one of the boys turned around and go, he's a Scottish English accent. Jughead, I can see your leg bone. I'm like, thanks man. Thanks, Paddy. Hello, Paddy
Just
Walker.
what you want to hear. I can
Yeah.
see your leg bone.
Yeah. One of the other boys, Nick Reno, he actually grabbed the door and ripped it open he is a big boy. He ripped the actual car door pretty nearly off its hinges just to get to me. So I knew things were that bad and that car was going to blow all on fire. They weren't going to bugger us around. They're going to get near. I knew that I wasn't good, but I was in good hands.
So how long were you in the hospital for?
Good question. It was either 4 to 6 weeks. So I was in the trauma ward at Liverpool Hospital. This is the funny bit. It's if I had been any other person or any other person who had been looking after me, I would have probably been out a lot quicker. I wasn't pinned and plated. I healed naturally. I was extremely lucky that one of the doctors who was I had a professor, then I had the specialist, then I had his understudy. Was my mate that I grew up with. So my next door neighbour, who had known me since I was probably 5 or 6 when we moved into the street and he moved in, he's a doctor, he's a Vietnamese doctor, absolute legend guy, huge be massive everything. He was the orthopedic surgeon's understudy at the time. And he's turned around and gone, I know the guy. I grew up with him. I know what he's capable of. I know he's fit. He runs. He does this. Pinning and plating him long term won't be the best thing to do. If we're letting him heal naturally, he'll walk out of hospital. And he put his job on the line for me, and I walked out of that hospital.
Don't tell me that. I've just had a bloody ankle reconstruction where they bloody pinned and plated me and put shit in me.
Yeah, it's the pins and plate. I was 22. Was it 22? I was only young. I was 22, and I was extremely fit. I trained every day. I could run 15 to 20 kilometers without a problem. I swam kilometers, so my level of fitness was through the roof.
Yeah, that's why they pinned and plated me. That's why they did it, because yeah.
Well, the older you get too, you're more likely to get pinned and plated. Whereas,
what are you saying, Andrew? What are you saying?
If I had that car accident now, I'd be pinned and plated. But back then, it worked in my favour, and they get into that. And I had surgery on my left leg to remove all the dead meat and all the chunks of metal and everything, glass were in there. But then on the third day was when things got really, really bad. That's when I was touch and go. There was talk of me not making it, and talk that my stomach had actually caused the trauma to my pelvis and my abdomen. My bowels and stomach weren't working properly, so I think Mum came in and goes, "He's not drinking Coca-Cola. There's something wrong with him." And the doctor's like, "Oh no, he'll be all right. He'll be all right." I think Dad said he looked like he's 9 months pregnant. I had this massive, big, hard stomach and belly. And they're like, "Oh, this is, we weren't expecting it to come on this quickly and this severe." And it was a trauma from the stomach. And basically my bowels, stomach weren't processing anything. So my stomach was hyperextended and my bowels were about to explode. So there was 3 options. They put a nasogastric tube in through the nose into my stomach and drain the stomach. Emergency surgery or death. The surgical team was prepping him on standby, and they were on their last go to put the tube in. And if they didn't get the tube in, I was upstairs in surgery. They got the tube in, and all I remember is God Almighty, that went everywhere, all over the room. It was horrendous. But this is people going about nursing shortages now. Back then, nursing shortages were huge. My dad was helping the nurse. So there was one nurse helping me, and all this stuff's going on. My dad's there holding blankets, cleaning up, doing this, getting stuff to help him. My dad's not a nurse or a doctor, he's a trackie. It's lying on that bed, seeing how the nurses were back then. God knows what it's like now. And I've seen the nurses in and out with Dad. I take my hat off to them. And what they had to put up with me, that's a daily basis. I take my hat off to them. I was a good patient, but just what was going on that day and the days after, it was just wild.
They're very much underappreciated nurses until you have to go into hospital and you realise what they actually do, and it's incredible.
Yeah. They're actually next level, and I've got a lot of time for them. And there were a lot of those talking about laptop thing lying on me. They're actually they weren't the registered nurses; they were enrolled nurses. So they're not even you got their different types. Some of the registered nurses looking after were awesome, and so were the enrolled nurses, and they just did a phenomenal job. I'd love to know where they are today, but they.
Could you track them? Is there any way that you could track them down?
Look, I just remember a couple of first names. It's
it's probably privacy as well.
25 years ago. But no, it's no doubt they might remember the ugly mug that was lying in bed. They go, "Hey, I treated that cop."
It's probably the fact that you're a police officer. Yeah.
I was all right.
I don't know. From your own account, though, you're pretty fit and
Yeah.
athletic. Tickets on yourself back then. Tell you what.
No, I'm still these days. Like I still train most days. It's the biggest thing. Yeah, the thing is, I always say to people is that my fitness got me through a lot of tight spots.
What was that? Your fitness? What?
Got me through a lot of tight spots, like through my career, and especially with that. That's my fitness and my health and that. It helped immensely. If I hadn't have been as fit as I was, things would have been different. It's especially the cop. You got to remain fit and healthy.
So, how long were you in hospital for, all up?
It was about 4 or 6 weeks. My first day out was the opening ceremony of the Sydney Olympics. I remember that. I was in hospital for the grand final. I had pizzas in bed that night. I didn't eat. I remember that one. But yeah, it was. It would have probably been about 4 weeks. It was mid-September in the Olympics, so it's probably been about 4 weeks.
That's not that long for such serious injuries.
No, but there was a lot of afterwards. There was the in and out of physio twice a day for months. Then the ongoing physio, and I didn't go back to work unrestricted for about 12 months. I went back in April the following year, but I still had restrictions on my time I could be at work. So it took a fair while. Even now, though, I still have my left arms. I can say I've got nerve damage in my arm from the collarbone down to my elbow. All the nerve damage. I don't feel my hand properly, and I had surgery during COVID for it. And I'm likely to have to go have more surgery on it again. Right.
Is that covered still by?
Still covered.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. So
That's
and my
good.
backs, like most police will complain about their backs, and my back's cracked.
Why most police complaining about their backs? I understand from a military point of view, they all complain about their backs because of the weight that they were carrying. But you don't think of that when
the
from a
military
police.
guys carry a hell of a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Some units in the cops, we wear body armor and helmets a lot, but not nowhere near the same as the military. But we're wearing this useless leather gun belt for so long. And the weight upon that, straight on your hips, is never good. Plus, you're seating in the car, and the altered seating position because of the gun belt in a normal everyday setting. So your car that you drive around to, like a Rodeo or a Holden Commodore, is exactly what the police drove in. Exact same seat, no modifications. So we've got guns, handcuffs, ammunition all around us. And you have to adjust your back and seating position. So it's not uncommon for cops to get their backs thrown out because the seating position in the car, carrying that weight all the time. There's no load bearing up onto the shoulders. It's all just on your hips, which then causes jumps in back.
What's the solution to that then?
Oh, God, less. Like when later in my career, I had the load bearing vest and the body armor on top, so I could actually put some on the pouches on the chest, similar to the army guys, and move stuff around my holster and make my belt to make it more comfortable. But I don't know if it is a solution. You've got to carry a certain amount of kit, and you want to have as much protection for yourself as you can, especially these days. And the police use generic car seating. There's probably a lot of reasons for the police to start looking at building a proper police car designed for cops, especially highway control and that. You want a car that's reinforced with certain different levels of protection, carry all the kit, travel fast, sturdy, but then the seating position for the cops. Because, you're in and out of that car all day as general duties, or anyone using the car, you're in and out all day. It's getting up and off the ground, carrying all the extra weight. Sometimes you carry actually 20 kilos worth of kit.
Mm. So you go back to policing after your accident and you're on light duties.
Yep. So I went back. Oh, you go.
No, go. What were you saying?
So I went back to, I was still at Fairfield, but I was on restricted duties, working over in what's everyone calls Cake Muncher Unit, Crime Management Unit. Basically an office jockey, just helping out 3 hours a day, 3 days a week. And I started picking out crooks out of photos that they were wanted and things for that. Like that. So there was one of my sergeants, Sean Gagan, and one of the inspectors noticed that I had a pretty good eye for the crooks. I could remember names and places, and I could pick people out of stuff, and I knew the heads and everything that was going on in Fairfield. So I sort of fell into a role assisting intelligence, intel side of stuff. So I'd started doing a role there when I was on restricted duties, which I went into while I came back on the road, doing the field intelligence officer. So a kind of crossover between plainclothes surveillance at a local level and a bit of office work and helping process information reports that were coming from the public, so your Crime Stoppers reports. So I'd get them come in and I'd look at them. I'd go, oh, there's an influx of drug dealing. Everyone's saying this house is dealing drugs. So I'd go and sit off the house and I'd watch. I'd go, yeah, that's what's happening. And I'd identify who the people were. I'd find out who was living there at the times that things were happening. I'd put together a package and then hand it off either to the proactive crime team, or what was then the intelligence response team, or the detectives. Or in some cases, I used to run the job myself.
If you're on light duties, how could you go and run and do your job
that was
yourself,
when
particularly
I
if you
eventually moved into doing it full time, back on the road sort of thing.
Okay.
So that was that job.
So when did you move into? So you did the water police after that?
Yeah, that was after. So I did a bit more time in the crime management unit in intelligence and licensing.
Yeah.
And I did selection for the water police. 2004. I was there in 2004, I think it was. And I did my 6 weeks there. Then I went straight from the 6 weeks into what was called the OSG Bike and Street Crime Unit. And the water police flowed on from that after nearly 12 months in that unit. That was
so the Street Crimes Viking unit was where you were dealing with the riots?
Yeah, that was where I was in the unofficial rights squad of the police force. So the predecessor of what's now called the Public Order Rights Squad.
Right. And you did 2 riots. There was, I know you did the Cronulla riots, but what was the other one? I hadn't heard of the other one.
So February 2005, I think it was the Macquarie Fields riots that kicked off end of Feb, early hours of the morning after a police pursuit where a car that's been chased crashed into a tree. Those guys had been in that car, had been involved in home invasions and pretty serious crimes, robberies, armed robberies, and weren't the type of people that you wanted to deal with, as in the normal public. And the police saw them and chased them, and they crashed the car, and that sparked a lot of public anger in that community of Macquarie Field, Glencorie Housing Estate, and kicked off what became known as the Macquarie Fields riots.
And what was your involvement in those riots?
So I was the team leader at the first night of it, of one of the teams in the city, and we got the call from the G operations inspector. So he's the people calling God, kind of a God figure at the police radios. He runs the state. He's the one that's organises everything that's going on, yes and no to pursuits and all that sort of stuff. And he got a message to go up and see them. And I did. I was at the Sydney Police there at the time, so I just walked upstairs to radio. Hey, what's going on? There's a public order incident out at Macquarie Fields. Jump on to Lima, which is the radio channel. Start making your way. Your boss, Mr. Noakes, has been advised. I'm like, yep, sweet. So I got the crew together. There's about 5 or 6 of us, and we jumped in a truck and put the lights and sirens on there and headed out to Macquarie Fields. Got out there and made a quick assessment of what was happening, spoke to the local commander on the ground, made some dumb decisions, but our commander then came out, and that's when...
Hang on, you made some dumb decisions, or the commander?
No, I didn't. I'm just a resource. I was just the sergeant.
What dumb decisions did you make?
No, not me. The inspector there.
Oh, okay. Well, we won't talk about their dumb decisions.
He's out now anyway, and everyone, most of my mates agree with me. But my inspector turned up. Okay. That's when we got. Yeah, we had a hailstorm of bricks hit us when we tried to push the crowd back from the crime scene. So our job was to protect the crime scene, to allow the investigator to investigate the actual accident and what was called a critical incident. That's where police investigate the police actions. Was to protect that and the integrity of it. And the mob decided, no, they don't want that. So they were going to overrun that crime scene. Our job was to protect the investigators and the crime scene staff so they could do their job.
So fairly kinetic.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was full on. I got my head split open that night, got knocked out. And we did a baton charge to push the crowd back without gear, because I mean, protective gear was at the time. Riot squad without riot gear. And we went to push them back, and all of a sudden a brick landed probably about 4 or 5 metres in front of me and spun, and I ducked, whacked me in the back of the head and knocked me out, split my head open, and Big Mitch grabbed hold of me and dragged me under one of the buses for cover, and that's when they sent the 4-wheel drive till went forward in the rodeos and pushed the crowd back with the cars, and they mopped up after that. But I got my head taped up and back into it.
And then you had the Cronulla riots, which was, they were huge, the Cronulla riots.
Yeah, look, the Cronulla riots weren't isolated to one suburb. They were spread over an area, and actually 2 areas. You had southwest Western Sydney, where around Campsie, Pascal, where all the Middle Eastern side of it was based. Then you had the eastern suburbs. So from Maroubra down to the Cronulla Peninsula. That was a massive area, but in actual terms of a riot, Macquarie Fields was a lot more of a riot, as in the sense of a public order incident with helmets, shields, batons, rocks getting thrown, and actually confronting a crowd head on. Cronulla was very spread out and no less violent. It was just a different type of riot, a public order incident. And some of the things I saw happen over those nights, because one of the first riot guys recalled back for that. It was just crazy, absolutely crazy, especially at night time.
So when you're saying, first of all, explain what sparked the Cronulla riots for the people that aren't in Australia.
So it was Wednesday afternoon. Cronulla Beach is pretty much one of the only beaches in Australia, in Sydney, where the train line actually comes up to nearly the beach. So you can walk from the train station to the beach, and the train line comes straight from southwest Sydney to there. So a lot of Middle Easterns would come down to the beach, and there was interaction between a Middle Eastern male and one of the lifeguards. When the lifeguard was assaulted, which sparked off a whole heap of community anger, and there was talk from the Wednesday through to the Saturday that it was going to be, something was going to kick off, there was going to be a riot, it was going to be Easter, there was going to be all these violence. But the Sunday, the residents and a lot of the community down there had come together, had a big community barbecue, say we've had enough. There was a big protest, and there's a massive mob, massive crowd, thousands all came down, and people came from all over Sydney for it down there to this because they had enough.
Am I correct in saying that there'd been a series of sexual assaults happen prior?
Yeah, look,
to that?
There's been a build-up over years.
Yeah.
There was a sexual assaults during the Olympics by certain members of certain community against the girls in southwest Sydney. So a couple of guys with the surname El Scaff and other men gang raped a number of women. Then there was a whole heap of violence that led up to stuff over the years and things that happened, and violence down there at Cronulla and stuff. The community had had enough. It had enough, and they wanted, in their words, they wanted to retake back what was theirs. And they had been sick and tired of that violence coming down there, and they weren't happy.
So what sort of things were you seeing happen at night then?
Well, on the lead up to the riots, I'll tell all this stuff was going to happen. So in the night, daytime, there was a whole heap of whites, Australians, Aussies, 8 Caucasians, had way too much to drink, and it just went typical crazy. Anyone looked Middle Eastern, they bashed or assaulted, or turned on. So we were left protecting those people and trying to get them out from the mob, and then trying to control that mob. And by dusk, early evening, it settled. But then we got word that a whole heap of cars were starting to amass in Campsie and Punch Bowl, and there was mobs coming into, and the word had gone out through mobile phones and the community that let's go down the car and let's get revenge. So the whole heap of people from Southwest Sydney around Campsie, Punch Bowl, Middle Easterns came through in a wave through Cronulla, through the Sutherland Shire, and just went, it was next level. They were just bashing anyone on the street. I saw a guy being wheeled in the back of an ambulance on his stomach with a knife hanging out of his back. I saw footage of people we were following. We couldn't catch up to them, but we were behind them, cleaning up the mess, and they went through trying to catch up to them to stop it. And it was like a plague of locusts just going through, just destroying anything that came in their path.
And there's,
it was pretty bad.
If people are outside of Australia and not sure what we're talking about, if you YouTube it, there's a very famous footage of a single police officer trying to protect one, I believe it was a male from memory, and there was hundreds of people encircling them, trying to get to them. So
there's footage
it was very dangerous. Yeah.
Like and it just continued along that whole eastern seaboard between Sutherland Peninsula, or the Cronulla Peninsula, and up to around Maroubra and stuff. It was just, it went over. The operation went for 6 weeks, but the riots went on for days and nights afterwards, generally at night. And it spilled over into Southwest Sydney, Campsie and Punch Bowl, where the policing took over. Police started targeting the ones that were coming into the Shire. They're out there before they could come down. There was roadblocks set up. Basically, if your driver's license said you didn't live inside the Cronulla Peninsula, you weren't allowed in, you would turn back. Then Brighton kicked off, so just north of the Cronulla Peninsula. Back over Tarrant Point, there's this suburb, Brighton. And that went belly up. I was there that night. Police cars got overrun, smashed. Camera gear got stolen off cameramen, and they got bashed by a mob of about 300 to 400. And then we were sent in to basically recover the police cars and get the police out of there. They called a Signal 1. I think there was 20 of us from the riot squad, 2, maybe 3 dog handlers, and then some of the tactical operations, yet the SWAT guys were there as well. And we basically pushed the crowd back, and I think here after 65 or 70 of these blokes. But these guys were running in amongst the cars, stopping General Holmes Drive, which comes straight out of Sydney Airport. And we were jumping over cars, they were jumping over cars. It was just, and then in the main street of Brighton, you had police in full riot gear going up the street, taking on mobs. They were coming out the side, throwing everything from bread rolls to bricks.
Considering you've been in the serious car accident, you've been dealing with some very serious individuals in your career. You've now been knocked out in another riot. How are your family dealing with you being in constant danger anyway, and then seeing you with these injuries?
I don't really know. Back in those days, I did talk about much at home. They would see mum and dad. Social media wasn't a doubt. You didn't have a YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. So it was either the newspaper or your 6 o'clock news. So if I knew there was something going to appear on the news, mum and dad would get a quick phone call. Hey, I'm all good. Especially at the Fairfield, and like, hey, dad, I'm all good. And he's like, why? I said, just don't watch the news. Of course, they watch the news. But that was sort of the thing that created a bit of a buffer. They were always worried because it spilled over to home. I had death threats and guys trying to hurt me back in the early 2000s. And they had police knock on the door. Hey, we're here to make sure you guys are all right. Until Andrew gets saying, oh, what's happened? Oh, such and such made a threat. But then Dad's sitting out the front with a pickaxe handle with 2 detectives until I got home. That was late 90s. It's, they've been...
Don't think he'd be allowed to sit there with a pickaxe handle these days.
My dad was still around. Dad would. Dad doesn't care about that sort of stuff. He's an old school truckie, so he's old school.
Yeah.
And then it's the dad had been around, and I could talk to him about stuff, and he'd seen a lot in his life. Done a lot growing up during the war years in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the changes in life. So he'd seen a lot. You could always talk to him about stuff. Mum always tried to protect Mum a lot. My brother we grew up in the same areas and stuff. We all have different paths in life. But he was getting up to, but we didn't have the social media back then, so you didn't get that exposure.
Because your career started getting quite controversial, and a lot of the media is when you were dealing with the bikie gangs. How did you end up dealing with the bikie gangs?
Around 2000, I left. I was Fairfield Highway 2012 to 2015. So after 2015, when your social media sort of become a lot more popular, your Instagram, your Facebooks, more your Instagram, your Snapchats and all that sort of stuff started to become very popular. That's when it sort of kicked off. And that newspaper called the Daily Mail, it's not a newspaper, it's actually physical, online clickbait, Daily Mail.
So do you think, though, that a lot of, this is going to be a controversial question, Andrew, do you think that police in general changed the way that they policed based on the social media
100%.
And you didn't?
Well,
or did you just change because of the area that you're now in, so therefore you were being a bit more, full on in terms of your duties?
No. Policing didn't change. Like, we didn't... When it came in and I was doing what I was doing, there was other cops out there doing exactly what I did. I wasn't alone. And I say this a lot. At Raptor, I was not just one person taking on the bikies. There was 50 odd of us at the time.
So let's explain Raptor before you go on. What was Raptor?
Strike Force Raptor came out in 2009 after the murder of, I think it was a Hells Angel at Sydney Airport. So the Hells Angels and the Comancheros had a massive altercation after both of them were on the same flight back from Adelaide. The Comanchero president at the time, Mikau, was involved in an incident. There's allegations of that he killed someone. Big, massive fight. From that, they created an investigation, and from that, the gangs, what was known as the State Crime Command Gang Squad, spawned what became known as Strike Force Raptor. The Strike Force Raptor was the proactive arm of the Gang Squad. So State Crime Commands made up a number of squads, and the one that looked after the gangs was Gang Squad. But they had then got a proactive arm, which was made up of Highway Patrol, Operational Support Groups, so the OSG guys, the door kickers, plainclothes police, as well as detectives. And they sort of ended up investigating that murder and that incident, the affray. And then that led on to the full-time unit being the proactive arm of the Gang Squad. And then what ended up becoming known as Strike Force Raptor, but the Middle East Organised Crime Squad folded into Gang Squad, and they created what was known as the what we would call then, Criminal Group Squad, and we were still the proactive arm of that until Raptor was disbanded and created its own squad and is now called Raptor Squad. That Strike Force Raptor was, when I was there, it was about 50 blokes, guys of Hills. There was about 6 or 7 of us in the Highway Patrol. Yeah, 12 or 14 in the OSG, and the rest were plain clothes. Yeah, I just got a lot of attention.
What was the mandate for Raptor?
Disrupt the outlaw motorcycle gangs. So disrupt.
Okay.
And make it uncomfortable for people to be members of the gang. So going at all different levels of the gang, from the hierarchy down to the lowest, so the hang-arounds, to the associates, to the networks, and basically making them feel very uncomfortable and making it very hard for them to operate and making it unattractive for them to join. So taking away clubhouses, intercepting runs, targeting the operations of illegal drugs, firearms, human trafficking, extortion, sex offences, anything that had anything to do with bikies, we would have our fingers in the pie. And traffic enforcement, one of the Hells Angels from Canada once said that the one thing that interrupted him a lot and annoyed him a lot most was traffic police targeting, because he needed a license to do his stuff. A lot of bikies, people think, they're gang members, they just hang around in a gang, they actually have jobs. They need their license to go to or from jobs. So a lot of them I know are tradies, so they needed a license to do their business. So you didn't want to get caught. You wanted to behave because you didn't want to lose your license by tickets. So that's where Highway Patrol came in. We'd be able to intercept their runs on their bikes. And because we had a lot of knowledge in regard for motorbikes, we could just basically, you probably have a run, so national run with maybe 10 to 150, 200 motorbikes and defect them, ticket them.
So when you're saying run, you're saying that they sort of basically going on a bit of a motorbike trip from point A to point B.
Yeah, there's usually a run season. It's later in the year, around late August through October, and all the gangs will do a national run. So they'll pick an area and they'll go all there en masse and they'll do their burnouts and they'll ride from point A to point B. And depending on the state, now it's a lot of Canberra and Victoria because New South Wales has some pretty heavy gang laws. Tasmania brought in a lot after they had to be down there, and so did Queensland. So they do a lot of their runs now in Canberra because it's they've got nothing to stop them, no legislation to stop those gangs.
So you would pull them over en masse and do defects
yeah.
on their whatever defects you find, and okay.
Yeah, the most I pulled over by myself was about 20. That was on the Finks National Run 2016, coming back from Canberra. So they'd done their run to Canberra. We knew they were on the way back, and I was out Western Sydney, and I'd done certain things to find out where they were, and I went down and intercepted them as they were coming north from Goulburn. I stopped 20 of them at that stage, and basically targeted them all the way back to Sydney over that afternoon. I think I rode out close to 115 to 120 tickets. And there was stays there when I had that 20 stopped off by myself on the Jim Highway, just south of Marulan, I think it was, from memory. Ty's Lane was across street.
So there's footage of you being very confrontational with some of these situations.
Yeah, so a lot of those ones, people don't understand the backstories. There's never
so explain it then. This is your opportunity.
Which depends on which one. Like,
well, there's a lot.
One that I stopped a white motorbike. There was links. He was up to no good at the time. There was certain information on that motorcycle, so I stopped in and spoke to him. Unfortunately, he doesn't like to show the full story. So he had a lot of them do is they would cut and paste it. So I actually asked his name and address, but that's been cut out of it. The whole interaction prior to when I walk up to the motorbike and where I issued a defect isn't actually shown. But he was told.
What's the one where you you ended up shoving the guy? Was it that one?
So that was the one up at Wodenbong. So that was there's a run that's done cross border from Queensland to New South Wales along the northern rivers and the border, and it's run by the Hells Angels Brisbane crew. It's a charity run where they raise money and they use other routes to come and ride with them. And that time it was the veterans were riding with them. They'd been told at their clubhouse over in Brisbane by New South Wales guys, because we could do cross-border operations. I was a special constable in Queensland and ACT. So we had told them what was waiting for them across the border in New South Wales, that we suggested they stay on their side of the border and not come into New South Wales. If they do, they'll be dealt with and there'll be repercussions. I mean, we'd expect the motorbikes, we'd do people for consorting, all that sort of stuff. We knew the Hells Angels were going to be there. What that footage doesn't show is that guy rode into that vehicle stop with the president of the Hells Angels chapter next to him. He's now become, I believe, a member of the Hells Angels, that exact person. I don't know whether he's still in it or not now. I don't know. But he was asked to move his motorbike around the corner. He just wouldn't move it. And he basically, if you see the body worn from my angle or another angle, which they don't show, they always only show the one that favours them. He actually advances on me. So
I did see that. He did advance on you, yeah.
It was just a check to push him back, so just to redirect him and to move him back, which is an authorised technique just to create that safe working environment, that gap, so if there's a threat. And certain people associate with bikies, and the members of the gang members might just necessarily carry weapons. They'll get other people to carry them because they're less likely to be searched. You don't know what that person's going to have on them, what their intention is, or what they may do. And the police on that day were heavily outnumbered. The video shows all these police, but if you look back to the right, which they don't show, there's probably 120 motorcycles, of which a large proportion were Hells Angels, and there were a lot of Hells Angels actually stopped around the corner. So if it had kicked off, we would have been outnumbered. And where we were is a very isolated place, being Wodenbong. nearest police backup was hours away. Probably coming from Karula.
Why do you think, though, that you're the most controversial police officer or a former police officer?
Well, it's because of the media coverage, I believe, and it wasn't stopped. It wasn't nipped in the bud early. There was plenty of opportunity for it to be stopped. I believe things could have been done differently back in the day. I do believe that New South Wales Police didn't know what to do. To this day, no one's really got the coverage I have, and no one to that date had the coverage that I had. And I have a very distinctive. No one liked, you can see, and I stood out. Because I was out there in the faces of the crooks and everything, everyone got to know you, and they would use any opportunity. So they sort of weaponized social media against us, trying to get rid of me, trying to make things harder for me to target them, because what I was doing was actually impeding their operations. There's any of the ones I've seen, there's a backstory, and like I've always said, there's always two sides of the story, and a lot of people say there's two sides of the story and the truth. Well, I've got nothing to hide. I'm still well known now, and I haven't been on the street since 2019. My last interaction was about 3 days ago with a bikie. Well, I got picked at
because you've got active contracts out on your life.
I don't have active contracts, but I know that people don't like me and they want to get me, and there was contracts, as I'm still here. So obviously, I don't.
Let's not antagonize them.
No, but there is threats. People do make threats against me through social media. I report them, and my chest done, which is disheartening. I believe it's a letdown by the organisation.
Hang on. Let me clarify that. So they make threats. You report them on the social media. And nothing happens on the social media, or nothing happens in terms of the threat?
Nothing happens in terms of the investigation.
Right, okay. You're reporting them to the authorities?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I've had numerous things happen and reported it, and I do know one incident went through the court. I went to that in November this year, and that magistrate said certain things. I like to say what he said, but wasn't unfavourable against me, but it was
let's not go into active court
no,
stuff.
I just don't like putting it out there. Though people can find out themselves if they want to Google it hard enough. Good luck. But it's just disheartening the way that post leaving my career, now that you're treated, it's just this.
If all the others in Raptor task force group,
strike force Raptor,
okay, thingamajiggy. If they were all out there policing as hard as you, why were you then singled out in regards to all this social media stuff?
At the time, it was strike force Raptor. There was only 6 or 7 of us in the highway patrol. So there was only highway patrol were the one part of Raptor that were constantly in the face of the bikie. So we were out there all the time and out of that, there may have only been 50% of us that actually were, how would you say, to be politically correct.
Proactive?
Proactive to get our butts out of the chair.
I wasn't, okay.
My old highway sergeant is an absolute legend, and he's a good mate of mine. And, he would be out there with us, and, I just got it because I think I was, like my other guys I worked with had a few dramas. A couple of guys actually did, but there wasn't that social media side of stuff. One of them was still there after I left. I know I had a lot of dramas with social media and stuff. As to what happened, I don't know. I wasn't there. But, I copped it because there was a massive influx in such a short period of time. I'm talking days. And the Daily Mail, I think, did 2 or 3 articles within several days of each other. Even followed me court one day. And it just put it out there. And it was just, it was a flavour of a month. It turned into the flavour of 10 years.
How do you deal with that from a family point of view and from a personal point of view in regards to you obviously, and look, I'm not a cop, I don't have any idea in regards to what it takes. I would imagine it would be a fairly horrific job, to be honest, dealing with.
Yeah, it's not the easiest jobs. It's by far, it's a difficult, and it's a career. It's not I don't think there's a job, it's a career. You choose to be a cop and you're going to be it for a long time. It's not one of those ones you can just pop in, pop out of, which seems to be happening a lot. But you deal with it is I got a little bit of training, like half a day of what to look for if someone's following you and what to do if someone's following you. So that's not taught to normal police. everyday cops. I got that because of the level of threats against me. I actually got moved out of home for 2 nights into a hotel because someone was coming to shoot me. You know, there's social media threats that against my mum, against my dad, against my family. Not naming them individually, but saying, hey, his mum, his dad, do this, follow him, do this to him. You know, that I can shield them from that because they don't have social media and they don't go looking for it. And it comes, I find it because people will send it to me and stuff like that. I can shield them from the social media side of stuff. But as in regards to sitting here and having dinner at your mum's birthday and up pops my head on a current affair, and I have no knowledge of that it's going to come up, or I would have made sure that TV wasn't on. Again, I still believe people knew that was going to happen that night in the organisation, and no one told me. And it was pretty hard having to explain to mum on her birthday what all the fuss was about. And her son's head's on TV and his vehicle stuff, and it hurts mum. It traumatised her and my dad. It was hard. Like having to explain to them, because you could shield them from certain things. They don't need to know everything I do at work.
Looking back on it, shielding them from the threats, if you're shielding them, that means that they can't be forewarned, prepared.
If I knew of anything that was going to come towards them, I had things in place to protect them. Like there was at times, I remember when I had my phone number got made public, and I copped thousands of phone calls in a short period of time. The guy I was working with, he made phone calls to the local area command where mum and dad lived. There was a car at the front of their house. There was cars out the front of my house. Anyone that was close to me had cars out, and they will know the job was made, hey, this is what's going on. You need to protect his family. And then things were put in place to protect me because I was at work at the time. So it was, if anything happened, the guys around me put things in place to protect me. And I had my supervisor, my close mates at work, wouldn't done anything to help me out at the time. And my commander at the time too, Mr. Adney and Mr. Beach and Mia Wallace, there was things put in place by them as well to help protect me and to, I won't go into the details, I don't want to let off any security
No, you
stuff,
don't need to go, yeah.
There was things
stuff
in place.
that was put in place.
Yeah, there was things in place that hopefully would be forewarned and be able to pick things up before anything actually happened. Whether minutes or hours or days, we don't know. But there was things put in place. But once they left, that all went. And when I became an ex-police officer, there's nothing like an ex-cop. You're excommunicated.
I was going to ask you now, like, what it's like if not being in the police force.
It's different because I still miss the job. And I say it's the best job I ever had, and I loved it, and I did. And I still back the blue. I'm a massive supporter of the police across Australia. I don't know what state you're in. I will back the cops without question. And sometimes I get in some pretty heated arguments with my mates. Some close mates will argue about it, but I'll back the cops. And my problem isn't with
why do they argue
cop.
about it with you?
Because they're not police. We have difference of opinions, and that's people in general. We have difference of opinions, and I respect their opinion. They respect my opinion, but we will never meet on that. But we're still good mates, and that's just human nature. That I have a following within the police across Australia and New Zealand, and there's cops around the world that still message me, and I get that support, and I appreciate it. I think it's absolutely awesome that my name is still spoken of amongst the guys on the ground, the guys and girls on the ground. It's awesome, and I will never ever bag the cops. I'm not going to be that disgruntled ex-file. Even though I've been through some pretty rough times, I still have the rough times. My problem isn't with the cops. My problem is with the organisation and the lack of support from the hierarchy.
So you left the police force based on injuries that you had?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Heck, still causing me a nightmare.
Well, considering you just had surgery on your arm or whatever, you were saying you got nerve damage still.
Yeah.
How hard is it from that transition point of view?
It's hard.
The support,
it's hard to
that...
switch.
Yeah.
It's hard to switch off. You still, like there was a stage there I'd be driving my car and I'd be going hitting the radar button. I'm like, dude, you're in your own car. And that took forever to stop. But it was just human nature. I'd see a car speeding. I'd go, oh, yeah, you haven't got a radar in the car, mate. Or I'd look at people and you look at them and you go, oh, yeah, that's a grub. That's a grub. Or it's always that. When you've done it for so long, you're still profiling people.
Grub, the technical term that police use for people of undesirable character.
Yeah. And like, you know, the funniest thing is, funny things have happened to me since I've left. And I look back at it now, I call it funny, but at the time, I was like, people go to me, what? Like, I walked into a Woolworths and there's a guy on my right with a kitchen knife that would be 50 centimetres long. He was trying to stab the guy 10 feet in front of me. I had to go down the middle of them to get to the salad, the fruit and veggies. And I said, can you two move to the left and take your fight over there? I don't want to get involved. They stopped and looked at me and was like, what? I'm like, yeah, just move. I don't want to get involved. I'm like, part of this. And someone's yelling out, get the police. And the next minute, old mate runs past me. And I've had the time to think, that's a big knife. Do I hit him with the shopping basket? I'm like, nah, it's too big a knife. I'm going to get hurt. He's going to run off. I'm like, better chase him. So I've chased this armed defender up through into a nearby housing estate, and I put him to where he went. That then a wave of the cops came, and I rang Triple O, and I was talking to the operator. They knew who I was because I gave enough info that they picked up that I was a cop or a former cop, and then I gave my old rego number, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I'm said he's here," and I found the defender for the cops. But that's just, to me, that's just well. But to a normal, late, everyday person, like, oh my God, how do you deal with that? I'm like,
yeah, I would have just turned around and walked out the door.
I've seen car accidents. I've got out of my car to go and help someone. I'm like, it's still that instinct of being a police officer that, you know. And I had this conversation with my mum and brother when my dad passed away 4 years ago now. We're sitting there trying to decide what occupation to put on Dad's death certificate. And Dad had a whole heap of different things through his life, but his heart and soul was a truckie. He was a truckie for most of his life and involved in the trucking industry. So he said he hadn't been a truckie for well over 30 years. I said, Dad's a truckie, Mum, for being out to truckie. Okay. I said, by the way, if anything ever happens to me and you guys are still around, 20, 30 years down the track, 40 years, wherever it is, make sure that's a police officer. Because in here, I'm a cop. I might not have a badge, I might not have a gun belt on, I might not wear the uniform, but in my heart, in my blood, I'm a police officer. Well, I did it for 23 years of my life. I tell you this year that I spent most of my adult life as a cop, but up until last year, I spent 50% of my life as a police officer. Now I'm over 50%. So more than half my life is just under half my life as a cop. So it's hard on me now, and I can't turn my back on it. It's created the way I am.
How do you now deal with situations, because you're still bumping into people that,
It's gauged upon Dev. I don't want the confrontation. I don't look for the confrontation, but everything is gauged upon them. If they look at me and they staunch up, I'm like, okay, we're not going to have this. Mate, look, I'll just walk a different way, or I'll keep an eye on them, or walk around and do something different. I don't go put myself in areas where something's highly likely to happen, like parts of Southwest Sydney I won't go to. Merrylands, Guildford, Granville, you won't find me there because it's high proportion of Middle Easterns and it's likely something will kick off. So I don't go there. So but if I'm confronted and I can't get around it, I've just got to try and find a way to deal with it. I try and avoid it and try and find a way to get out of it. Like there was December 2023, just before Christmas, I had what I refer to a double vehicle jam done on me. Basically, it was like the SWAT side, the swarm my car. So I was traveling on the road. I had one car come up inside of me, couldn't do it. And it overtook me, cut in front, and another car come inside, and they both blocked off the road in front of me. Two occupants come running back to the car and try to drag me out of the car. And police mode kicks in. If I get dragged out of the car, God knows what's going to happen. I'm not going to get out and fight them. I'm outnumbered. It's not the best thing to do. I have an escape route. I drove through. Took off, and then they both chased me through several streets around through Southwest Sydney. And when I say chase me, we were up and over curbs, gutters. I was doing everything to get away from them. I eventually lost them in the back streets. But if I was a police officer at the time, I would have called out a signal 1 up when I rang up the police. I said, hey, this is who I am. This is what's happening. I basically got the same response, but in the end, I made a statement and never went anywhere. But that's probably one of the worst incidents I've had happen to me. And I felt vulnerable.
Considering you're so public in terms of the stuff that's on the internet, you still living in and amongst.
I live in Sydney. Yep.
Sydney.
I can't escape it. Like people go, oh, move. Like, where do I move to? I can go to Queensland and I can still run into people I've dealt with. I haven't been to
Come to
Tasmania.
Tassie, man. It's
since-
quiet
yeah.
down here. It's
Oh, you
just,
got bikies. You've got bikies. We've been out there for your bikies. I know where the Rebels are down there at Hobart. But Victoria, South Australia, anywhere I go, there's people I'll run into. Anywhere in New South Wales, I've been to Port Macquarie, I've been to Coffs Harbour, I've been to rural New South Wales. I've sat in a coffee shop with one of my best mates, and I got picked straight away. Bikies are international, but in Australia, they're everywhere. They're out there. But then I don't only just look at the bikies. I look at the people that are associated with them. I've seen on social media that want to gob off and then yell at you or something. That's quite common, and I just ignore it.
Do you think that they're almost turning the tables on you from your policing situation? So you were making life uncomfortable for them when you were a police officer, and now they're trying to do the same thing to you now?
Well, I lived as a police officer. I lived exactly the same. I was doing the same trial. I haven't switched off into a civilian role. You could say a civilian switch off a motor company, not can turn it off. I am still behaving the same way as I did. I do anti-surveillance. I'm more careful. I watch who's driving. If some car's following me for too long, or it's slowing down when it should be speeding up, I'll become a bit more observant of that vehicle, or I'll notice things out of place at the gym, or if something happens, I'll be more aware of it. I think it's just something that's continued over into the civilian part of my life.
But that's not a very healthy way to live, being in that fight or flight stage all the time.
Yeah, it's like I've got my safe places. Got my safe place, my home safe as far as I know. So it is what it is. I adapt to it. Right. And I think I've adapted to it whilst I was a cop, and it's just continued on.
Is it then hard to be, if you're still having to live the cop mentality for your safety?
Yeah.
Is it then hard to fully embrace the civilian world and move on?
I don't know if I could ever even move on. It's moving on to me is forgetting about everything I've done, forgetting about that. Whereas I'm still very much an advocate for keeping the police culture alive and remembering our mates like with Police Remembrance Day. So I'll never leave it behind, but I am disconnected to an extent. Like I don't go, there's a junkie, that's a drug house. I don't care about that. It's not correct. So yeah, it's a bit, I've moved on, but it's still part of me because of who I am and who I've become and who the media have made it to be. And in a way, the police have allowed it to be. That happened earlier on, is it's put this Raptor 13 out there, and there's a lot of police out there and that look up to me as a figure that they've liked. And I don't want to use the word emulate, but they see a lot of good qualities in the way of police. And they ask me through social media for tips and tricks. How do you do this? How do you do that? So how can I just disconnect myself with everything police and walk away from? And I don't want to be that angry, disgruntled cop, which I see a lot. I don't want to be that person that hates the cops and hates everyone. It's not me.
Well, in fact, you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot for police now, aren't you, in terms of charity stuff?
Yeah. Like I push Police Remembrance Day. And it'll be my second or third year down there this year, and I'll pump it up. I started today by saying there's a business out there, Legacy Metals. Hey, go over. He's a first responder family. That go and support them. Let's get our gongs together. Let's get down there. Let's march together. Let's have a great time. But then there's the other side of it too, that I want to raise money. I want to make people aware of our community, the first responder and policing veteran community. There are guys out there that have left the police or still in the police and emergency services and have side hustles, like side businesses and stuff. Let's turn to them. Let's support them. And then there's the whole social media thing. Is let's change the image of policing. Let's make policing great again by having a page or pages on social media that present all the positive things about policing. Look at all the good work cops are doing, and talking about what I call legends of policing. Like, we all know about our Ben Roberts and Cam Baird and all these great warriors from our military heritage, but we don't know many about our police, like Al Sparks, the highest decorated police officer in Australian history. Richard Norton, who was a police officer in the AFP, who received the Victoria Cross for his actions of fire support-based coral in Vietnam War. They're police officers. These guys, we need to know about that, and I want to keep that alive and make it better known. And there's a group of us. It's got social media that are plugging it. And I think it's great. And that's where I think I can do a lot of good for cops and that community.
What are the pages?
There's the 311 Collective, Any Unit Clear, Backyard Observation Group, End State Zulu. Like, these guys all have content going out. They've got their own little businesses going. Legacy Metals. There's mine. I don't have anything for sale. I just talk about me as a cop, and I get on there and have rants. It's called Raptor Rants. Most cops will know about it. And it's about not negativity. It's about positivity. Like, yeah, we call things out that are stupid, but we also try and promote a positive policing culture and a culture that let's make policing great again.
Well, I think you've been shadow banned because I tried to find Raptor Rants and I couldn't find it.
It wouldn't surprise me. It's Raptor_Rants. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I'll look it up now as we're speaking, but I'm pretty sure it's shadow banned.
It's about creating, like, I get in there, have my rant, and I'll call things out, I'll say things that are bad, but cops come to me and I'll say stuff, and I'm able then to pass that on and say it in a public forum or it's not public, it's private, but I can then say things and put things out there that the cops can't talk about. I got pretty vocal about their pay rise. I get pretty vocal about a few things that affect the cops on the street. Like, if one cop says to me, hey, this issue, I'll go, okay, there's an issue, but let's find out more. And I'll ask a lot more. And then if there's a big concentration of things come through, I'll raise it. And one of the biggest things at the moment, it's coming back a lot. It's coming a lot from a lot of different pages, is the TikTok and the social media side of stuff. We've got to start realizing we're cops. We're not dancers. Right.
When you said putting more positive things out there, I was like, dancing in the lifts is not a positive.
No. Look, at the community go, that's thumbs up on that. We're not about getting likes and thumbs up, and it's not about getting all that stuff on social media. Oh, look at these police dancing. People want to see what policing's about. Show the good side of policing, where police are arresting crooks, chasing crooks, making those arrests. Put that out there. Tell the public that people need to know that their police are actually out there doing something, and they're actually making a difference to make the community safer. By dancing and showing these TikToks of making coffee at like the RSL Club, what's that showing the community? Like, yeah, it's great to show the community their action of colouring in stuff with the kids or doing coffee with a cop. I think that's great because it breaks down the barriers. But then you see 3 or 4 cops dancing around and making a mockery of everything about policing. It's a lot of cops don't like it. It's not what we see, and don't dare comment on it because you'll get banned.
Does that mean then that you view what many have stated is you as a controversial figure in terms of the police force and those videos online? Does that mean that you actually, by you trying to keep a positive mindset, you're viewing them as this is what policing should be?
Well, I'm not saying you can't be me. I've always said this through my career. You can't be me. No one can be me. I can't be you. You can't be me. Go out there and be your own person. Whether you take a small part of me and a small part of 10 other police and make it your own, you have to make yourself. You can't emulate anyone. I didn't emulate anyone. I was me. That's my nature. That was how I saw things. That's how I became. And I took on a whole heap of different things I saw in other police and created my own mold. But you have to create your own mold. You can't emulate me. If you take something small away from me, whether it be some way I did something or some way I interacted with someone, or when I'm speaking to a crook that's recording me on a phone, I keep a very straight face. I don't interact. I just say what's got to be said and I get out of there. If you can take that away from what I do, that's great. But then go and take away something from someone else and create your own persona. Don't ever try to emulate someone. Be your own person.
Good advice.
It's
be your own person.
And that was the thing. People would come in to see me. Oh, I want to be just like you. I said, dude, I've spent however many years it was in the cops being me. I learned this over years. This didn't happen overnight. This has been developed over years. It's keeping a straight face while you've been recorded, dishing out tickets was what I was good at. I just tread the minimum. I did what had to be done, then I got out of there. Sometimes people say, well, that's just hard ass. You've got to show more sympathy. Well, I'm not there to give hugs and kisses to people. I stop people for traffic offences. There's your ticket. There's an option on the back. You can take it to court. I'll see you in court. Have a nice day. See you later.
Did you ever let anyone off a ticket?
Oh, shit, yeah.
Okay, good.
There was a Christmas when I was in Fairfield Highway. I got a mum for an over 30. She had a daughter in the front seat, a broken leg. She got under 10. That's a huge saving in points and fine. But there was also people that you let off. You know, that was one that sticks to me. I looked at some old footage once, and there was a kid I let off. You know, he just got his license, he strapped up. Yeah, there's people out there that make honest mistakes, and you know it. But then there's people out there that are just taking the mickey out of it. Like, you know, and this is my peeve, is people go on about speed cameras and all that sort of stuff. I don't like speed cameras. I don't like mobile phone cameras because it's not stopping the offence. Me, as a highway patrol officer, I would see the offence, I would stop you and interact with you. Whether I gave you a ticket, I charge you, or I let you go, I'd stop that offence then and there. I'd stopped your driving behaviour or whatever behaviour you were doing. And God knows, 200 metres down the road, a kid could have run out, you could have killed them. Or you lost control of your car and died. So by stopping them from doing those huge speeds and driving in a manner idiot, or getting them off the phone, it could have saved their life or another.
Did someone pulling out a phone and recording you change the interaction in your mind, whether or not outwardly you let it know? And you said you keep a straight face, whatever. But if someone pulls out a camera and starts recording you, do you go, I'm giving them a ticket regardless?
Generally already at that point.
Pardon?
It was already at that point. They were already getting a ticket. So it wasn't a case of, I think you get a ticket, I'll pull the phone, you're going to get a ticket now. It was already a case of, you're probably going to get a ticket anyway. It wasn't a case of, there's got a phone, I'm going to get payback. It was already, they're going to get a ticket.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any last words?
Make policing great again.
Pardon?
Let's make policing great again.
Let's make policing.
It's the best. The guys and girls out there.
That's a very controversial statement.
Well, it's not. It's not. I see it as policing is a noble profession. It's not a job. It's a career. You decide to become a police officer, and you are charged with some crazy powers, and you have a place in community where you have to protect the community. We spend 6 months training to be a police officer, and then we're deployed for an entire career. We don't go back to a safe place. We don't go back and train. We're continuing training and being updated the whole way through our deployment. And we don't finish our deployment until the end of our career, but then we're still in our war zone. And that's what I spoke to Mark Donaldson, the recipient of Victoria Cross.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he said to me, thanks for what you do here. You keep us, my family, safe while I'm overseas, and you allow me to do my job. And I've spoken to many soldiers over the years, and they say, you take your gun belt off and you return home to your war zone. We never leave it. But people have got to start realising policing humans, and we're not evil. We're normal, everyday people, but we do a difficult, tough job where the government agency of last resort for everything, whether it be mental health, getting barking dog or armed robber or a terrorist incident, terrorist incident we can call it. If it gets that bad, we're going to call upon the army. But we do everything. We do first aid. I've picked up fire hoses. I've saved people's life with CPR. I've done dog complaints. I've dealt with the worst of the worst. I've dealt with terrorists. I've arrested a terrorist. Blame home of Omar Balaji. He's been convicted and everything of terrorism charges. But we do everything. And
hang on.
Yep.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah.
Tell me that story. Because you have not mentioned that.
It's
We're
in
at the end of the podcast episode. It was. But then it wasn't like, and then suddenly you just throw that in, arrested this.
So when I was at OSG Viking Street Crime Unit, we were involved in the first mass arrest of a foil terrorist plot to attack Sydney and Melbourne. It was 2004, 2005, I think it was. Operation Pandenis was the resolution phase. And it was a series of Islamic extremists that were hell-bent on attacking Sydney and Melbourne. I remember the guy's name from Melbourne, but there was a whole heap of them. And we were involved in the rage in the early hours of the morning at AFP and that. And my last target was a bloke named Omar Balaji. So I was getting phone calls from my boss, another guy on the ground who was with another government agency, getting updates to his location. And I was told, don't let him go back into this place. He could be armed. This is what's going to happen. You have to arrest him. I'm like, yeah, no, it was. So we're on the way there. We've formulated a plan of how we're going to take him down on Wilson Road at Green Valley. I've then heard I'm probably 200 metres from him. We knew exactly where he was just coming towards us. So we put our vests on, our gear, and I said, boys, we're going to come in, do this is the job. They'll be here. I'll go down, shots fired. I'm like, what the fuck? And we're just going over the crest, and the cops are then running in on him. They've just shot him. They've gone to challenge him. And he's turned around and fired shots at the police that engaged him and taken him down. Had a gunshot wound through his neck, and a couple other rounds went past him into a house. So I turned up, and we started doing first aid on him, have off all his clothes, do all that sort of stuff. And that whole night we'd be involved in the arrest of terrorists. Another crazy incident down at Bankstown Airport with another male we thought had a suicide vest on him. He was armed with a pistol, all in the same group of men. We took him out as well, as in arrested him. They all got lengthy sentences for terrorism charges, but they were going to crack shitty in Melbourne. I do believe it may have been suicide vest. That was 2004, 2005.
Mental.
Arresting murderers. We do everything. Look, police do everything, and it's a tough career, and it's something that I loved. I planned on staying until I was in my 60s. I still hope that I could pass on a lot of knowledge, and that's what I intend on doing now through social media. I think it's not a career for everybody. It's not a career for people to go out and make TikToks about, look at me at work. It's a tough job, and you see some terrible shit. You see the worst of humanity, but you also see the best of humanity. I've seen some awesome things in the cop. I've had some of the best experiences in my life. I've got some great mates out of it. I've fallen into a circle of friends that across Australia that I can turn to if I need help, need a hand with someone to talk to. And they're all cops and military blokes. But it's just, I do believe that we can, as foot soldiers, as the grunts on the ground, as the constables, we can make policing a great profession, again, by showing the community and the cops that are out there that we're still at your backs, and that, look, hey, this is what we're doing. Let's talk about the good stuff and support the troops, as in the guys in the ground of police, not the military guys. I got all the support under the sun for the military guys. I absolutely love them, champions. But we've got to start supporting our cops too.
So people, if they want to support first responders and veterans, which is what you're working with, Raptor Rants they can join you on, and what's the other platforms?
There's App 311 Collective. So he's got some great content that goes up about policing any unit career. It's got some great Australian policing content. Australian Policing Archive, they've got some great stuff going up about cops, different units. And a lot of these people you can actually message and talk to them about policing and stuff. There's pages out there that you can, if you're going through the cops, there's Overwatch Fitness in Queensland. He has his own business, and his social media, and it's about getting people fit to join the cop in the military. Like, there's things out there. If you're looking to join the cops, there's people out there that will help you and will guide you on to join the cops. And if you're a cop or a first responder, there are people out there that will have been there, have gone the path before you, and will happily pass on the info and help you and do things to make that shit job a little bit easier.
Thank you for coming on, Andrew.
All right, thank you for having me. It's been great.